Daniel Black, they call me Dan. I finished my Navy career as an E5. I was a sonarman. Then I had 6 months at the Fleet Sonar School, which is also in San Diego. It's right across from the Naval Training Center. At the time, when I was in my last year of high school, my dad we had a parking garage, and I worked for him in the parking garage. And the Navy recruiter was a chief petty officer, and I started talking to him. He started telling me a little bit about the Navy, and I sort of liked the idea of the Navy. Maybe it was from watching movies, and John Wayne and all that kind of stuff. And I played ball too. I was an athlete. I played ball and all that sort of thing. So he said, if you go in, I can get you in there if you've got good grades into something called the EFSR, Electronics Field Seaman Recruit. You just sign up for that. That means that you're guaranteed an electronics field school, radar, sonar, radio, any one of those three. You're not going to be just a shipboard sailor. You're not going to be scrubbing decks and that sort of thing. And that's guaranteed, so you sign up for that. But you got to make sure that you do well in boot camp and don't screw up your grades or something. So then I had the opportunity to be in the electronics field to pick, I believe it was either sonar or radar. And sonar sounded interesting. Submarines, chasing submarines or getting on a submarine. And that was an intensive school. The first 3 months were electronics, both electric and the electronic side. And we learned everything about motors and capacitors and batteries and resistors and all those things. And then the last 3 months was how to operate the sonar gear, which at that time was, if you remember when computers first came out, you could fill a whole room with a computer. Well, back then the sonar gear, you could fill a whole lot. You could fill these big cupboards here with the sonar gear. It was warm, and it was essentially lots of electronics in there. It's sophisticated now. So we did that for the last three months of sonar school, plus 4 or 5 trips out in those destroyers for 1 or 2 nights at a time. And that's where you got a chance then to use the gear and chase at least echo range for submarines. Came out of San Diego, and there'd be a submarine out there, and the destroyer escort. These were all World War II ships with the old sonar gear. And they get out there and they meet with the submarine, and the sub would go off, and then they'd go off and chase it, and we would practice with it. But the guys got seasick. Okay, they put a 5-gallon, what a 5-gallon bucket looks like. That 5-gallon bucket's down in the sonar shack, and the sonar shack isn't a hell of a lot bigger than a phone booth, but it's quite small. There's only room for maybe 2 or 3 people in there. If you got sick, into the bucket, but you weren't going outside. You just got sick, and the bucket would sit there until it was 3/4 full, and somebody's got to take it out and throw it overboard. So I mean, it wasn't one of these things, oh, we feel sorry for you because you're sick to your stomach. You know, you're just going to vomit, and that's it. Some people found this repulsive, but again, if you roll with the punches, you find out later on in life that there's going to be things that are probably a whole lot much more distressing than these little things. But sonar school was great. I mean, we enjoyed it. It was classes all day long, every day, and good camaraderie. The barracks, we lived in a barracks, and these are old World War II type barracks. The bunk beds, obviously bunk beds. Even while standing watch, when I was at the Fleet Sonar School, we stood watch with a carbine. We'd stand 2-hour watches at the sonar school out on a dock. It was a long dock, and that's where there was usually like 2 destroyer escorts there, because that's what the sonar school people were training on, as destroyer escorts. These were, by the way, these were old round bottom destroyer escorts too, so when they went to sea, you better have a strong stomach. That's all I gotta say, because when we got out there, people were sick, and they were sick over and over and over again, and that was probably one of the most uncomfortable experiences you're ever going to have is seasickness. And anyway, we were carrying these carbines on the long dock when you were out there all night from midnight to 2 or 2 to 4 or whatever it was, 4 to 6. And it's foggy and chilly in San Diego overnight, and particularly that time of year. But we had no ammunition on these weapons. At that time, there just wasn't any. At that time, at the completion of the sonar school, you got the billets were assigned, as to most of them, destroyers. Once in a while, a submarine. Number 1 in the class, I happened to be class honorman, and there was 1 billet to the helicopter squadron. So then I became a sonarman in a helicopter anti-submarine squadron, which was based at Reed Field, which is south of San Diego.